There is a version of you that exists in silence, watching, waiting, becoming something colder than you imagine. A version so controlled, so precise, and so consistent that even you would hesitate to stand beside him. Most people misunderstand discipline, thinking it is routine, motivation, or temporary bursts of effort driven by emotion. But real discipline is something darker, something violent, something that destroys weakness without asking for permission or mercy. It is the ability to silence your impulses, bury your excuses, and execute even when everything inside resists. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this truth long before modern comfort made men soft and dependent on fleeting feelings. He wrote not for the virtuous, but for those willing to embrace power in a world that rewards strength. You are not tired because life is hard. You are tired because you cannot trust yourself to stay consistent. You promise change, but collapse by afternoon, negotiating with the same habits that keep you trapped. You start strong, but your discipline fades the moment discomfort appears, exposing how fragile your control really is. That is the cycle: motivation followed by decay, ambition followed by self-betrayal, over and over again endlessly. And deep down, you know the truth. Your greatest enemy has never been the world. It has always been yourself. Machiavelli believed that power belongs to those who control outcomes, not those who react emotionally to circumstances. If you are ruled by how you feel, then you are not in control. You are simply responding to internal chaos. Discipline is the act of separating action from emotion, forcing execution regardless of how you feel in the moment. You do not wait for motivation. You move despite the absence of it, because movement creates power. The first transformation begins with silence, not just external silence, but the elimination of unnecessary expression completely. Weak men announce their goals, seeking validation before effort, draining energy before anything meaningful is created. Strong men disappear, working in isolation, building quietly until results speak louder than any explanation ever could. When you stop talking, you remove distractions, expectations, and the need to prove anything before it exists. Silence becomes your shield, protecting your focus from the noise of opinions, doubt, and external interference constantly. Then comes emotional control, not suppression, but mastery over reactions that once dictated your decisions without question. You will feel tired, distracted, unmotivated, and frustrated, but none of that will matter anymore to you. Because discipline means acting correctly even when your internal state is chaotic and completely unstable in that moment. You treat emotions like weather, acknowledged but never allowed to dictate your direction or delay your mission. When others stop, you continue, and that consistency alone separates you from everyone still negotiating with themselves daily. Isolation becomes necessary, not because you hate people, but because most people dilute your focus and weaken your standards. You begin to notice that comfort is contagious, and proximity to mediocrity slowly erodes your ambition over time. So you step back, not dramatically, but intentionally, reducing noise, cutting distractions, and reclaiming your mental clarity. In that isolation, you confront yourself, your fears, your weaknesses, and the truth you have been avoiding. And when you face it fully, without escape, you begin to rebuild yourself with precision and ruthless honesty. As this transformation deepens, something changes. You become less predictable, less reactive, and far more difficult to manipulate. People notice it immediately. They sense that their words, opinions, and pressure no longer influence your behavior. You stop explaining, stop defending, and stop seeking approval, because your results replace the need for validation entirely. This unpredictability creates discomfort, because people cannot control what they do not understand or emotionally influence anymore. Then comes the final shift, the death of who you used to be and everything that version depended on. You let go of the need to be liked, the need to be understood, and the need to stay comfortable. That version of you served a purpose, but it cannot survive in the life you are trying to build now. So you replace it with something sharper, colder, and far more disciplined than anything you have known before. And when you reach this point, discipline is no longer something you practice. It becomes who you are completely. You move without hesitation, act without negotiation, and execute without emotional interference slowing you down anymore. People will call you extreme, obsessed, or distant, but what they really feel is something they cannot explain. They feel the presence of someone who cannot be controlled, distracted, or broken by ordinary pressures anymore. And that presence is rare, powerful, and slightly terrifying to those still ruled by their own limitations. So now the question is simple, and it demands an answer that will define everything that comes next. Will you continue negotiating with weakness, or will you become the version of yourself that no longer asks permission? Because discipline is not something you add to your life. It is something you build by destroying everything that weakens you. And once that process begins, there is no return to who you used to be ever again.